Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 48 of the World of Sports podcast. I am your host, Diego Sandoval. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Logan Ring. Logan, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody?
We've got a great episode in store. We are back, and if you're watching on YouTube, you know Logan is in his new setup. Great background. You've got a couple.
Yeah, I gotta
there.
set some stuff up back there. It's a little bland right now.
But yeah, so now Logan is at his home base for the next however long. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe in a couple of weeks I'll be up there. But we got a great episode in store. I'm going to start off our NFL rankings portion of the podcast. It's going to be going on for the next couple of weeks until the NFL season starts, with, of course, the top 10 NFL quarterbacks going into this season. That'll be good. You know, get some more NFL in here. We haven't talked about NFL in a really long time. And then, you know, basketball, NBA is kind of in an off-season lull right now. Summer League just ended, but not many people pay attention to Summer League. We saw some interesting things there, at least. I'm wearing my Buzz City jersey just because LiAngelo Ball is going to get a roster spot on that team.
Yeah, I heard my Giannis jersey just came in.
It did. It can be sent to you. It's actually in my room right now, but you're going to get that real soon. If you don't remember, Logan had the Bucks winning it all before the playoffs started. And I told him if it happened, I would get him a Bucks jersey, and it happened. So he got a Bucks jersey. And also we are going to talk a little bit about the only thing in basketball that's happened in the past couple of weeks besides Summer League. And that's the NBA 2K22 ratings just dropped. And it's surprisingly a pretty big piece of discussion for the NBA fans. And
there's not a lot going on.
Yeah, it's pretty much all they have to talk about right now. And then we're going to end off with some MLB second half storylines. We've seen a lot of things happen in the past couple of weeks since the trade deadline and since the All-Star break. So yeah, should be a fun episode. Follow us on all of our social medias. They should be linked down below. If they're not, and you're just listening, you go to Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You can find us. Just look up the World of Sports podcast. We'll be there. But yeah, let's hop right into it with our NFL quarterback rankings. Now, if you're a fan of this podcast for Logan's sweet, sweet voice, you're not going to hear much of it right now. We've been over this, but I will be doing most of the football talk. And that starts today with the top 10 NFL quarterbacks. A post will go up in the next couple of days on our Instagram and maybe our TikTok, where you can, you know, debate me and call me stupid, you know, do all those great things that we always love to see. But just, you know, going into it, this is not for like fantasy football or anything. This is the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion, just in terms of how well they are, how good I think they are. And coming in at number, I'll start with 10. I'll start with number 10. And it's Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans. He's on his 33-year-old season. Last year, he had 3,819 passing yards to go along with 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He's, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked and underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. He's just amazing when it comes to managing that offense through Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a 2,000-yard rusher. He's one of the best running backs in the league. But Ryan Tannehill, because Derrick Henry's so good, Ryan Tannehill tends to get overlooked pretty often. And yes, he's not the, you know, do everything quarterback that's going to light up the scoreboard. But he is just so good at managing games and winning games. This Titans team has been very good since he took over 2 years ago. But yeah, going into this season, he's my number 10 quarterback. You know, AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, obviously, and then the addition of Julio Jones makes that team so much better. And I think Ryan Tannehill is a legitimate top 10 quarterback in the NFL. A guy that's just outside the top 10 that I was flip-flopping back and forth was Matthew Stafford and Ryan Tannehill. Stafford on the Rams, new environment. But I have Tannehill at the 10 spot. I'm sorry, Logan. Baker Mayfield did not crack my top 10.
Yeah, I was expecting it. Maybe next year.
Maybe. At number 9, I have the rookie of the year last year, Justin Herbert of the now Los Angeles Chargers. Almost said San Diego. 23 years old. Last year just had one of the best rookie seasons from a quarterback we've seen in a very long time. Threw for over 4,000 yards, 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. That's a phenomenal touchdown to interception ratio for a rookie quarterback. Usually it takes time. They have, interception issues, but Herbert came right in and was that dude for the Chargers. He just came in and made them better. Again, they weren't the best team last year, but he was able to put up really good numbers with a pretty depleted offense that dealt with injuries all throughout the year. And I think this year the offense is going to be even better. They brought in a lot of offensive line pieces. They gave him a lot of help there, which we know is crucial to the success of a quarterback. And like I said, he was a rookie last year, so he's going to continue to improve. He'll probably take a second year leap. Quarterbacks, we usually see leaps around year 3, 4, 5. But I mean, with what Herbert showed last year, it's pretty obvious he's going to be an elite talent in the NFL for many years to come. But I think this year he comes in as my number 9 quarterback in the NFL. Moving on to number 8 is a guy that we didn't see much of last year due to an ankle injury, and that is Dak Prescott. Before his ankle injury, which was gross. If you saw it live, I'm sorry. But he was one of the best quarterbacks in football before his ankle injury last year. Going back to 2019, his last full season, he threw for 4,900 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Those are just ridiculous numbers. 28 years old. So, quarterbacks primes in the NFL usually start around 28 because you're fully, you're matured, and they can go for who knows how long, depending how good you are. Just look at Tom Brady. But Dak Prescott, I mean, he's in one of the most talented offenses in football. You put those guys around him, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. Those are so many weapons that he has when everyone is healthy. And there's no reason for Dak not to be in the top 10. I think if he didn't have the ankle injury last year, he would be higher. But, coming back from the ankle injury, there's still a little bit of skepticism as to whether the rushing aspect of his play is going to be the same. But I think Dak falls perfectly at 8 for me, 2-time Pro Bowler, in one of the best offenses in football. So I think we either see a even bigger leap from Dak this year, or we see him kind of stay the same, maybe get worse. It depends on how that ankle heals. We don't really know how he's looked in game quite yet. So we'll see, but Dak at number 8 feels right to me. And at number 7, I have Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray, 24 years old, super young. He's already got a Pro Bowl and a Rookie of the Year under his belt. Last year, he had 3,971 passing yards and 819 rushing yards to go along with 26 passing touchdowns and 11 rushing touchdowns. Like I said earlier with Herbert, he's going to keep improving, as most do, into their third year. I mean, he's one of the most valuable quarterbacks in all of football because of just the fact that he can run the ball, and putting up 819 rushing yards is a good season for maybe even a running back. And to do that as a quarterback just adds so many different layers to your team. With the Cardinals, they've got weapons. DeAndre Hopkins, they brought in AJ Green. Chase Edmonds is a good guy out of the backfield for them. But I mean, Kyler Murray is in the perfect situation where honestly he could win MVP this year just because of the weapons that he has and the fact that he can, throw and run. So I think Kyler is a phenomenal dual threat quarterback. I don't think he's as good as the guy I'm about to say next, but Kyler Murray, for a guy who's going into his third season at number 7, he's phenomenal, and like Herbert and like a couple of these guys is going to be a main staple in the league for years to come. And that guy I teased before at number 6 is Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar Jackson is the best running quarterback we've seen since Michael Vick, and there are legitimate arguments that he's a better running quarterback than Michael Vick. He's the only guy to have back-to-back 1,000 rushing yard seasons as a quarterback. 1,000. That's like a good season for starting running back on a team. And Lamar's rushing for 1,000 yards and passing for 2,500 plus to go along with 26. He had last year, he had 26 passing touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns. He's already won an MVP. He was obviously a Pro Bowler, and he's 24 years old. The main difference between Lamar and Kyler to me is that Lamar has just shown, yeah, Kyler's probably a better passer, but Lamar's a good enough passer to the point where how much better he is rushing the ball just bumps him up a little bit over Kyler for me. That Ravens team is going to be really good this year. They've got a great defense, and to have Lamar at the helm, like I said, with Kyler, it adds another aspect to your offense that defenses has to deal with, and it's a hassle to deal with a quarterback that can run. And I think, like I said, Lamar's an elite dual threat quarterback like Kyler, but I just think his rushing potential and his rushing talent puts him just above Kyler in terms of overall better quarterback. Moving on to number 5, it's a guy that has been on this list for many years, and it's Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks. 7-time Pro Bowler. He's won a Super Bowl. Has not gotten that MVP that Russell Wilson has always been talked about getting. He's 32 years old, so again, still the prime of your career as a quarterback in the NFL. He's got some rushing upside, but again, he's not a runner like Lamar or Kyler is, and he never really was. In 2020, he threw for over 4,000 yards, 4,200 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Started off ridiculous last year. Throughout the first, I think, 5 or 6 weeks of the season, he was the MVP, and it wasn't even close. He obviously cooled off towards the end of the year, and that was in large part due to the defense allowing 30 to 40 points a game, which we've seen is not good for your quarterback, because if you allow 30 to 40 points a game, then your quarterback is forced to throw a lot more than they're used to. And that'll obviously lead to more interceptions, more incompletions, stuff like that. That's going to drive your numbers down and just drive down your production overall. That being said, I don't know if I think we've seen the ceiling that Russell Wilson provides. But like a lot of these guys in this list that make them such good quarterbacks, they have so many weapons. You know, we saw DK Metcalf really come into his own last year. Tyler Lockett's always going to be a weapon for him. And, you know, Chris Carson out of the backfield's great. Russell Wilson is just the steady quarterback that's going to get the job done as long as the defense does something. That was the main problem last year. The defense did nothing, and he kind of got screwed, and a lot of the blame got put on him. But I think Russell Wilson at 5 is a great spot. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another 4,000 yard, 40 touchdown season from Russell Wilson. Moving in, this guy is barely above Russell Wilson, but because he is younger and has a lot more potential and upside, I'm going with Josh Allen at number 4 of the Buffalo Bills. Last year, he had 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He improved more than anybody else did, anybody else I've seen in the last 2 seasons. Coming into the league, he was kind of just this guy with a really big arm that wasn't the best in terms of decision-making, and we saw that his first couple of seasons. He really struggled with interceptions and incompletions, but he just, I don't know what it was. A lot of people were super surprised, including myself, that he was able to improve upon his touchdown to interception ratio so much. But he was, and he's another guy with rushing upside. I mean, he's one of the better runners in the league. I'd say he's somewhere in between Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson in terms of running. He runs more than Russell Wilson, meaning, and a little bit less than Kyler Murray. But I mean, that big arm and his connection with Stephon Diggs obviously helped him a lot last year. One of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the NFL. I think Josh Allen is in for another big season, another MVP caliber season. Really, I wouldn't be surprised if any of these top 7 or 8 players won the MVP this year. But that just shows, it goes to show you how deep the quarterback position is, and how Josh Allen is 25 years old. He's one of these young guys that's going to be here for a while. And yeah, I think he takes another step forward. So to say that after having a 4,500 yard, 37 touchdown season is a lot, but I mean, I definitely see it happening. Moving on to number 3, the third best quarterback in the NFL. I had a really hard time leaving him out of the top 3 because I just feel like you can't anymore. And people have in the past couple seasons, and he's continued to prove everybody wrong. And that's Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. I mean, you could list all the accolades you want: 14 Pro Bowls, 7 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, 44 years old. He's 44 years old, and he's still my third best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, yes, part of that is that he's in Tampa now and they have a lot more weapons to give him. But last year, he threw for 4,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. This man just doesn't want to stop being good. Like, I mean, yes, he has arguably the most weapons in the NFL. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Gronk. When Gronk's your fourth option, come on, like that's a lot of options for you as a quarterback. But also you have to give Tom Brady the credit. He it's not easy to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. He probably has the highest football IQ out of all these guys. Obviously, he's been in the league for 85 years. But just we've said it over and over. Tom Brady just defies everything that we think of when we think of the quarterback position. We say it's evolving and it's more rush heavy, but then Tom Brady is the number 3 best quarterback in the NFL. So you can make any argument you want. I think you're wrong if you have Tom Brady outside of your top 5. I have him at 3. It's just he knows how to win, and that's big when it comes to the quarterback position. It's what you need. So yeah, the GOAT is my number 3 quarterback. And if you notice, I don't have Deshaun Watson in here because he is probably not playing this year. He is still amidst his 22 sexual assault allegations.
Yikes.
Yeah, so he's not on my top 10 list because it's pretty obvious he's not going to be on the field this year. And that brings me down to my top 2. You can probably guess who they are. I've seen some people go both ways in terms of where they have them. I have Aaron Rodgers at number 2. I mean, he won the MVP last year, so I understand if you have him at 1, but I mean, I'll just talk about Rodgers. Part of having him at 2 is, the uncertainty that this team has around them, because throughout the whole offseason, Aaron Rodgers was basically like, no, I don't want to come back. Like, I hate it there. I don't like it. Can you trade me to another team? And then like a week or 2 into training camp, he just showed up. So there's some cloudiness around that whole situation. It looks like it's just going to be one more year spent in Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers. But that being said, he's returning most of the team from last year, including Devontae Adams. And if you have Devontae Adams as a quarterback, that's the ultimate weapon. He can do everything and anything for you. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers, 37 years old, still just one of the most elite quarterbacks in every aspect of the game. Deep ball, accuracy. He can even run here or there. He gets the job done. I mean, last year he had 48 touchdowns. He threw 48 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That's like, what? Like, nobody, 50 touchdowns is like, you have the greatest passing season of all time. And he had 48 with only 5 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And he often gets overlooked because he's playing at the same time as Tom Brady, which sucks. But Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback of all time, in my opinion. Just he's so talented. He can really do anything. But yeah, he's at number 2. And to say all that about Aaron Rodgers and say he's at number 2 just is the argument for why Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Patrick Mahomes does everything every guy I just said, all 8 guys I just listed. Patrick Mahomes does all that stuff together. Like, there just isn't a guy. We've never seen someone like Patrick Mahomes. He's played 3 seasons, 3 Pro Bowls, won an MVP, won an Offensive Player of the Year, won a Super Bowl, won an AFC championship. So the fact that he knows how to win, yes, he can obviously do that. He is the most talented player on the most talented team in the NFL, offensive wise. I mean, he's throwing to guys like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, the best tight end in the league and the second or third best wide receiver in the league. Those rankings are coming soon. I mean, last year, in a year that people were kind of like, oh, Mahomes is like, he's all right this year. He's not the MVP. He threw for 4,700 yards, 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen play the game, and he's 25 years old. Like, this man is doing stuff nobody's ever seen, and the fact that he's only played for 3 seasons. When I think of Patrick Mahomes, I just think, oh, he's the best quarterback in the league, and he's been the best for a long time. But he's been here 3 seasons. This is his 4th season as the starter. Like, that's just insane to me that Patrick Mahomes has been so dominant so early that he's already got the respect of the number 1 quarterback in the NFL. So I don't think I have anything else to say about Patrick Mahomes. He does everything, and he does everything at the most elite level you can. And I hate that the Raiders have to play him twice a year. But yeah, those are my top 10 NFL quarterbacks. Again, Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, that's what it is. And there's going to be a post going up, like I said. Go roast me there. Or you can roast me face to face, whatever. I don't know. But yeah, those are my top 10 NFL quarterbacks this season. Thank you. Okay. NBA stuff. You take the reign here.
All right. Well, there's not a ton of NBA news right now with the offseason, but there's a couple, I guess, offseason moves that went down, a couple trades, and then I guess we'll just cover some of the NBA 2K ratings. First of all, Eric Bledsoe got traded to the Clippers. That was for Patrick Beverley, a rookie, and who was the third guy in that? So not a huge trade, but yeah. Eric Bledsoe to the Clippers. That's a really weird one because I feel like Patrick Beverley was sort of like
the glue. He was the glue.
Yeah, he just seemed like he embodied the Clippers a little bit. People think the Clippers are annoying. I kind of agree with them. Sometimes they just talk too much, but Patrick Beverley just seems like he's like a Clipper. And now they have Eric Bledsoe, who is an upgrade on paper, but I don't know, man. He has always underperformed in the playoffs, and he's a great defender, just like Patrick Beverley. You can say whatever you want, but the numbers back him up that he's a good defender. But yeah, this is a weird trade because I don't really know what the Clippers are doing here. It feels like some of the chemistry is just going to be off now. Bledsoe has never stepped up in the playoffs. Like, it just keeps happening. I got nothing against the guy, but he just hasn't been able to do it. He's a bit of a better passer, so that will help. But yeah, interesting trade. I don't really know. I want to get your thoughts, but it seemed just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, and also of note, Patrick Beverley was then traded to the Timberwolves. So
right.
He's there.
I don't know what they're doing either.
He's there now for some reason.
That is really weird.
Yeah, to me, the Clippers had a really wonky, weird offseason that didn't really help them at all. Yeah, they kept Kawhi. That's obviously going to be a positive for your team. But even that wasn't the most smooth thing to happen. Kawhi, there were times where it was like, oh, Kawhi's thinking of leaving. And then it was like Kawhi not staying. And then it was just kind of got sprung on us. Oh, Kawhi re-signed. So that in and of itself made this offseason kind of weird for the Clippers. And then, like you said, Patrick Beverley is kind of like the glue, the team chemistry guy. And I think that this Clippers team isn't the same without Patrick Beverley. And it's just the Kawhi whole situation didn't, yes, he re-signed, but just the way he went about it, it's not going to help the team chemistry. And bringing in a guy like Bledsoe, sure, he could be an upgrade from Patrick Beverley, depending on how you look at it. I don't think it really helps the Clippers in terms of making them legitimate contenders next year.
Right. And the third guy was Rajon Rondo, who's probably going to get bought out from the Grizzlies. He didn't really help the Clippers too much. It seemed kind of weird that he was almost like on the Lakers side just a couple of years ago
Yeah.
and won a championship with them. So just to like put him on the Clippers, I mean, they're
It
like
makes sense.
rival or whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe it would work out on paper, but it just doesn't seem like it. It's just not the same team.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to cover, Robert Williams for the
Oh, yeah, he
Celtics just got a
re-signed.
4-year deal for what, like 40-50 million. So good for him. He's a really promising young player. The Clippers need a good big man because they got a lot of good wings, but
Celtics,
I
you
mean,
mean?
yeah. The Celtics, I mean, they had like Tristan Thompson last year. It just was
Yeah.
it was not working out for them. So yeah, good for them. Young guy, blocks a ton of shots. He's a really good defensive player. But yeah, that's kind of the big offseason news.
Yeah, there hasn't been much. I mean, since we last did a podcast, obviously,
Right.
it's in the post free agency, like, I guess preseason. Like, there's not much happening.
Right. And crazy to think about. A month ago, the Bucks won the finals. It's already been a month since that. It seems like the offseason just started.
Yeah.
Summer League just ended. But oh yeah, by the way, the Kings won the Summer League. So great for them. That's a very big accomplishment.
Good job, Kings.
That's the only thing they're gonna win for a very long time. But yeah, I think we're just gonna go over the top 10 2K ratings now. It's a bit controversial. You can't ever make anybody happy with these lists. Like you can change whatever, you can switch whatever. Everybody's going to be mad at it. There's going to be someone who's mad. But tied for first place, 4 players at 96 overall: LeBron, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Steph Curry. At 95, we got Kawhi, Jokic, and Embiid. And then at 94, we got Luka, James Harden, and Damian Lillard. I honestly don't really have big problems with this list. I understand that some people, when your favorite player is rated the same as like someone you hate, I get it. Like if you don't like LeBron, you think Curry's better than him right now. I mean, I understand, but also, I don't know, man. I think they're pretty good. You got the MVP at 95. Shout out to Jokic because I'm glad he's up there.
And also, it's weird to look at, like, people are debating it, like they're saying who's the better player, but it's really who, because like you look at this, like the way they rate 2K players, they take into account your 3-point shooting, your rebounding, your playmaking, stuff like that. And like, if your rebounding is high, your overall will go up. But if your rebounding is low, it's going to go down. So like, that's why it's hard to compare Jokic and Embiid to Luka, Harden, and Dame. Like, I think Luka is a better player than a guy like Embiid. I think but like he's higher. I mean, and like if you ask me who my top 10 players in the NBA were, Luka would be higher than him. Like, but it's different when you look at how they do NBA 2K ratings, because it's like it's just numbers.
Yeah.
And they just basically put them all together in overall.
Yeah, another example of that is just like Steph Curry and Giannis. Like Giannis is a defensive player of the year. Steph Curry is not a good defensive player. Obviously, Steph has a lot more offensive weapons. He's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. They're both a 96 overall. You just kind of got to take all of it into account. Like, I really don't have a problem with this list. I think Kevin Durant, I mean, he might be a little higher come season. I don't know. Steph Curry might be. Maybe LeBron drops. Who knows? We don't know. But yeah, this is just, it's a tough list to put out, and it's always going to cause controversy no matter what. So
the one thing
I like it.
The one thing I think they did perfectly well is I think the 4 guys that got 96 are the 4 best players in the NBA.
I agree.
And I think that's a big thing. I mean, Kawhi, Jokic, Embiid, I kind of like how they did it in tiers almost. They had 4 guys at 96, 3 at 95, 3 at 94. People are going to get mad, obviously, but I think it was fair the way they kind of divvied it out. And it also left them some room to like not like people won't get that mad at them because they're the same overall, rather than like maybe one being higher than the other. Because for being honest, nobody's ever going to make everybody happy. You said it. One person that was definitely not happy was Trae Young, who was hit with an 89. He was an 89. Just for reference, Jason Tatum was a 90, and Zion Williamson was also an 89, while Rudy Gobert was an 88. So that's kind of who he's sandwiched between. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's definitely fair.
Mhm.
I understand that he or his fans might think he's a little higher. I mean, he just led a team to the Eastern Conference Finals, but you have one of the best offensive players in the league and the worst defensive player in the league, and you can't really be that high if you're that bad at defense. I mean, Trae Young can do everything else on the court, but he hasn't won like an MVP or anything where you can just say like, oh, I don't care about his defense at all. He's great. He's a great player, but I would still take Jason Tatum over him. I think Zion is a good comparison right now because I think they
Mm.
both kind of add the same amount to their team. But also like you can't get mad at him for not liking his rating. Like every single player is going to want to be rated higher.
Right.
But yeah, I like that placement right there.
Yeah. And before we move on, I just wanted to reiterate again. Trae Young leading his team to the Eastern Conference Finals is amazing. But guess what? It doesn't do anything to your player overall. The only thing that affects that is how you play on the court. Like, things like leadership, things like that. Like in our heads, when we're ranking them as fans, like not 2K ratings, that goes into effect. Like for a lot of people, LeBron is still the best player in the league because of the impact he has on the overall team. There's no stat that does that in NBA 2K. So just keep that in mind when you're debating all this stuff.
Right. One other rating, Ben Simmons is an 84 overall this year. I think he was like an 88, 89 before.
He's the same as LaMelo Ball.
Right. So that's kind of how far he dropped off. I hope he has a bounce back year, but yeah, that whole situation is weird that he hasn't been traded yet, or that they're asking for like 4 first round picks, 3 pick swaps, and a star player. It's not happening.
No.
But yeah, 84 overall. That's tough to see it drop
crazy.
that far.
Yeah. Again, not much to talk about in the NBA, and it's gonna be that way for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, let's move right along to the MLB, the last segment. We're deep into the second half. It's August 20th. Into the home stretch, about a month and a week about of games left. With September obviously being the last month of the regular season. And we've got some storylines, some interesting storylines. Team storylines, a couple player storylines, but again, the player storylines haven't changed much, aside from like injuries and stuff like that. But team storylines, the San Diego Padres are falling right now in the worst possible time. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games on a 3-game losing streak. They just lost series to the Rockies and the D-backs. It's not good. They're 12 games back of the NL West. So in my opinion, they can kiss that goodbye. And now the Reds are just 1 game out of that second wild card spot, while the Cardinals are 3.5 back. That's going to be a push towards the end of the season. And
that is crazy.
I think that, I said it when we talked about the MLB trade deadline. The Padres didn't do anything. Like they got Adam Frazier like a week before the deadline day, he's been actually not that good for them, but he's obviously a great hitter. And he gives them depth with what they're doing with Tatis now, which we may talk about, or we can talk about Tatis right after this. But they needed pitching. The report was out that they were in on Scherzer, Berrios, all the guys, and they got none of them. They didn't do anything. And Yu Darvish is hurt. Yes, Blake Snell has not been as advertised at all. Joe Musgrove has been the really one solid arm all season. They went out and just signed Jake Arrieta. His first start for them, went 3.1 innings and gave up 5 runs. So Padres need to find pitching if they're going to make the playoffs, period.
Right. And it's crazy that a team with this much talent is fighting against like the Reds for a playoff spot, even though the Reds, like, they're not a bad team at all. I did not expect them to be even close to that. And yeah, their offense has been okay, not great, but you got to be able to beat the Rockies and Diamondbacks. Right. I mean, those should be gimmies for them. And yeah, they're just falling. I think that they can still make this wild card spot. I don't think it's like they're just going to drop out of it, but Yeah, it's tough when you can almost get Scherzer and even Trey Turner maybe, and then the Dodgers just just scoop them up instead. Seemed like it was almost a done deal, and then that happened. So yeah, that's tough. I do want to talk about Fernando Tatis a little bit. He's playing right field now, just because of the injury. He hasn't been good at shortstop at all. You can say that's from the injury or whatever. He's made a lot of errors. But yeah, I actually really like this move, at least for now. I don't know if it's permanent. I don't think it will be, but obviously outfield is a lot easier to play, and he's been good since he came back. I mean, the first game I think he went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs. Like, he's like the greatest comeback player from an injury of all time. I think he's batting like 600. But also that's actually becoming a real sample size because he's injured so much.
Yeah, which isn't a good thing. Like, you
not
don't want to be known for
no. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he could be the MVP this year. He's the front runner right now. He's just got to stay healthy. But the Padres need to do something. They had Jake Arrieta pitching, which is not a good idea right now.
Yeah, people got too excited because they heard the name Jake Arrieta without realizing. I think he's like 3-11 this year and got cut.
Good.
So
yeah.
I mean, Tatis in the outfield is the right move. I remember he got that injury 2 weeks into the season, and on this podcast, I said, get surgery so that he's back for the second half of the season. And they didn't get surgery, and he got injured 3 more times by that shoulder. And they had to move into the outfield, which isn't a bad move. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to play him in the outfield for the rest of this season and into the playoffs, depending on where they end up. And then I think he gets surgery this offseason, and they try to move him back to short, which we'll see. Again, shoulder injuries are not fun historically. They just tend to linger. So, but he's one of baseball's brightest young stars. So you don't want to, we're not hoping he gets injured or it keeps lingering, but it's just the truth of what's going on. It's a shoulder injury, and those aren't good when you're a position player. But yeah, the Padres need to pick it up a little bit. Which, I mean, sticking in the NL West, the big storyline all season has been the San Francisco Giants, and they continue to play well, but the Dodgers are starting to be, get healthy and be the Dodgers that we expect. They've obviously been good. I think they're the 3rd best team in the MLB right now, maybe 2nd. But they've turned it on. They've won 7 in a row, 11 of their last 12. They are now just 2.5 back of the Giants. They were as far back as 5 or 6 a couple weeks ago. I mean, I just want to, I'm a Dodger fan. I watch all their games. Their bullpen has been amazing. I actually saw something on Twitter the other day, but the Dodgers have been with the Trevor Bauer situation, who knows what's happening there. Clayton Kershaw's hurt. Now Julio Urias is hurt. Our rotation is Scherzer, Buehler, David Price for 4 innings and 2 bullpen games, which isn't fun to watch when it's the bullpen games. But in the last 10 games, the Dodgers bullpen has thrown 49 2/3 innings, the vast majority of innings, and they have a 1.45 ERA.
Oh my God.
The bullpen is a bunch of fools who, the way they do it is they call someone up, and then he'll pitch like 3 innings, and then they'll option him to AAA because he can't pitch for like 2 or 3 days after he does that. And then they'll go pick up somebody else and then drop him and then bring that other guy back when he can pitch again. It's this weird rotating thing they have with like their taxi squad that they just keep bringing guys up and down. And it's working. The offense is getting it done. Obviously, we've talked about the Dodgers offense in the past, but their bullpen has been just ridiculous in the past couple weeks. And it's part of the reason that this is going to be very fun to watch in this last month and a half.
Yeah, the Giants do not have a lot of room for error here. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. And I mean, they're still dropping in the standings just because of how good the Dodgers are. So yeah, that's a really interesting division. Both of those teams are going to make the playoffs no matter what, but who gets in to that wild card spot is a really big deal because that's 1 game and you're out. So yeah, it's really interesting to see. I want to cover I guess just the Yankees and Red Sox real quick. They've
Mhm.
kind of just flopped in the second half of the season or flipped. It's like I don't know what happened to the Red Sox. It just seems like that whole clubhouse has just been bad, I guess. The pitching is terrible. They've been losing. They just swept the Orioles, but other than that, they've been losing to everyone.
Oh,
Uh,
they swept the Orioles.
Everybody should sweep the Orioles. The Orioles are a AAA team, but yeah, the Yankees have been great. They're winning. They're finally winning. They're finally not even 100% healthy, but finally at least a little healthy. Joey Gallo has been great for them hitting home runs. Their whole outfield is insane. Luke Voigt is coming back.
But Luke Voigt is mad. He's
Yeah,
pissed.
I really hope they just DH him and then put Stan in the outfield. I don't really see how that's that big of
Yeah.
a deal. Like right field is or left field, it's not a big ballpark at all. Like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they got a lot of power on that team. Their pitching has been okay enough where their offense can carry them. But yeah, the Red Sox just have not been good at all for the entire second half, and they're just falling. The Yankees have that wild card spot, and now Oakland has the wild card spot over Boston, who's only a half game back. I mean, it's still really close, but that's tough because the Red Sox had a big lead for a while, and they just kind of lost it. But yeah, it's a really tight race in both leagues, so I'm excited to see what happens. But it seems like the Yankees have just kind of found like what they want to do, and then they've just been executing pretty well, and the Red Sox have done the exact opposite. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I feel like the Red Sox were really similar to the Giants for the first half of the season. Two teams that nobody really expected to do something this year, just kind of going off of the clubhouse energy and the team just chemistry was working so well for both teams. And the Giants have continued that, but the Red Sox, I don't know, you really can't explain it because it's weird to, try to analyze what has happened because we couldn't understand how they were so good in the first place. So it's almost like, all right, they're falling back down to what we expected them to be, but how did this happen in the first place? Yeah, they've got a great offense, but their pitching has just never been there, but they were still managing to win games. So it's almost like the law of averages are kind of starting to play a role as we get into the dog days of summer. Um, Again, I'm definitely hoping that's what's happening in the NL West as a Rodgers fan, but it's definitely what's happening in the AL East as we've already like it's pretty obvious how just everything has shifted. Um, the Rays also are not getting talked about enough. They're just winning games because it's the Rays. We saw it last year. They won the American League and made it to the World Series. They're just winning. And that's the Rays for you. But the last team I wanted to talk about, I guess division team, is the Braves in the National League East. The Braves, we talked about it on this podcast a couple weeks ago. They were just sitting at 500 all season. They had just lost Acuna to injury, and we were basically like, well, all right, this season is kind of a wash. Let's just wait to get healthy and go for next season. But Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley, they all want to be MVPs apparently, and now they're 65 and 56, 4 games above the Phillies in the NL East, who, by the way, were hot, and now they're definitely not. The Mets are bad again. So the Braves have this division. Like 4 games is a big lead at this point in the season. And it's really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, their whole infield is insane. I think I saw something where every one of them has like 20 home runs.
Dansby Swanson too is having a phenomenal season.
Yeah, every single infielder on that team is insane. And then I mean, you got Acuna who's out, but they got a really, really good team. Freeman just hit for the cycle. I mean, they're all just playing so well right now. Their pitching is good and their offense is amazing. So I think that they can carry them. The Phillies have not been good at all, like you just said. Bryce Harper is having a MVP type season where he's putting up some of the great numbers, but a lot of them are just not exactly there, which is kind of just a lot of it is for his teammates just like not being good and not getting on base.
Yeah.
I think he has like only 2 home runs with players on base, which is just insane. All the rest are solos. And then the Mets, they just lost DeGrom for probably the entire year. He's been injured on and off all season, but I think he's just getting shut down now.
Yeah.
even if they make the playoffs, I mean, that team is going nowhere without DeGrom. He's such a big part of their team. It just sucks because Mets fans were so, I guess, excited about this year. They've faced a lot of injuries, even trading for Baez and everything. It just has not worked out for the team at all, which is kind of the story of the Mets. But yeah, I'm happy for the Braves because when Acuna went down, I just kind of lost a lot of hope for them. We even talked about it, like maybe they blow it up, and then it's worked out since then. So yeah, interesting division, but it seems like the Braves have it for now.
Yeah, Jorge Soler has actually played really well for the Braves too since he was traded there. So he's been a big piece. Kind of, you're not going to replace Ronald Acuna, a perennial MVP candidate, but he's done a good job filling in. And don't forget that Braves team minus Acuna was one win away from the World Series. I mean, they're talented enough. It's just they're finally putting it together this season, which who knows how that'll end up playing off. It could be a little bit too little, too late, as they say. But yeah. And then you mentioned Bryce Harper. He's probably third for me, an MVP candidate, maybe 4 behind one of the Braves. Tatis and Muncy are 1-2 for me right now. But yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about in the MLB?
I think I'm good. All the other divisions are kind of just set, so
Yeah,
we can talk about them. But it's just like, oh, the White Sox are winning or whatever. But
the AL West could be interesting. Forgot about that one. I think the A's are 2.5 back, but both teams,
right,
like earlier this week, the A's and Astros both lost 3 games in a row, and I was like, how does that, like, you know how much of an opportunity that is for the A's, and they blow it too. But yeah, Brewers have the NL Central, surprisingly.
by a lot.
They've looked really good. And then yeah, the White Sox have the AL Central pretty handedly as well. But yeah, that's all we got for you for episode 48 of the World of Sports podcast. Thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever you chose to do. We love you. Go ahead and comment. What should they comment? What did we talk about?
Just roast Diego with his top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah, do it. It won't be. Yeah, just do that when it comes out. I'm sure I'll get lots of colored commentary. But yeah, it should be good. Again, follow us on all our social medias, linked down below. The World of Sports podcast. It has been fun. And for my co-host Logan Ring, my name is Diego Sandoval. Signing off.
Signing off.